In typical Dana Hobart fashion, we're right on time, only 20 minutes late. So I want to be consistent with our past mayor. If I may call to order, this is the meeting of Thursday, June 2nd of the City Council, the Library Board, the Housing Authority Board, and the City Council representing the Redevelopment Successor Agency. With that, I will ask Christy Ramos, our Assistant City Clerk, to lead us in the flag.
Please begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we have a roll call, please, Christy?
Councilmember Hobart? Here. Councilmember Kite?
Here.
Councilmember Smotrich? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Townsend?
Here.
And Mayor Weil.
Here. The first order of business will be a presentation. If I would appreciate Dave Parsons, if you would come up to the podium. Dave is the president of the Rancho Mirage Rotary Club, and it's recognition for the benches that you have been so kind to donate. And why don't you tell us a little bit about it? And I think you might even have a couple of slides to show us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm actually a past president. I will be introducing the current president now when we finish the presentation. The Rancho Mirage Rotary was chartered in 1978, so this is our 38th year now. And as a service organization, we're focused on community service, international service. So it's just part of our makeup to try and do things that improve our community and the world. So what we've done is put together a very brief, about a 3.5 minute slide presentation. And it'll start out with the benches, a couple of shots of Wolfson Park, where the first benches are already in place, and then 2 additional benches will be going into the dog park. in that one. And this is the last one we're going to show. And this was a home up in the Cove, just a few blocks from here. And it was, this was, I believe, 2011. And it was just totally overgrown. So we've been able to, I think, do some good work for the community. Okay.
Dave, I'd like you to receive this certificate of appreciation, and it's presented to the Rotary Club of Rancho Mirage. On behalf of the entire City Council of the City of Rancho Mirage, we hereby recognize and thank Rotary Club of Rancho Mirage for their generous donation for the 4 new park benches, which are really special. Thank you very much. The additional seating for our many park patrons is greatly appreciated. Presented on the second day of June, 2016, Ted Weil, Mayor. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Yes, please.
Could I have the Rotary Club stand, please?
Great.
This is not the entire club, but we have the current president, Derek Moore, and the incoming president-elect, Mary Sawyer, and Joe and Pat Banhart, who you're all familiar with, Larry Nichols, who you're also familiar with, and Rich Fromme, who is a charter member of the club. He's no longer an active member, he's an honorary member, but he comes down during snowbird season and spends the time with us here, and he helps out when he can. And hiding in the back is a former member who we hope, upon his retirement, will be joining us again, David Bryant. And my last thing is I would like to really thank Bill Oppenheim for all his help. We scoped out where to put them and what we wanted and everything, and we did use recycled materials rather than wood and things in the design of them. So hopefully they'll last for a while.
Thank you, Dave. I'd like to call on Sandra Johnson, Code Compliance and Building. What is the official title?
Senior Manager for Code Compliance and Building Divisions.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. In any case, Sandra headed up essentially the project to clean up this particular area. There's a number of people out here that participated in that. I know it was an incredible job, and I think Sandra would like to say a few words about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I'd like to thank Mary and Pat, who reached out to the city this year to in search of a property that could use a little cleanup, and they were very persistent, and I appreciate that. We have quite a few properties or inventory every year that the city abates. So for the club to commit and make that contribution of their time and efforts really does help the city out, and of course improves our community. So thank you very much for reaching out to us. Fantastic turnout. I think the lesson learned for me was not to touch the bushes with the needles in it. I think we have a photo of that. Did you have that?
Josh? Jason?
Yeah, I was a victim of one of those bushes, by the way. And secondly, I think what we took from that is that they're truly a service organization. I mean, I think they can outwork quite a few people in this audience. You'd be surprised at how much work they can accomplish.
There you go, Sandra.
There you go. There's the evidence right there. So again, thank you very much for your service and your efforts. I look forward to working with you again in the years to come. This is our third one in a row, so I'll try and save one for you again next year, and thank you very much.
I have a tip on how to remove cactus spines. Use Elmer's glue. Because you don't push them in, just put the Elmer's glue, let it dry, and then 20 minutes later, peel it off.
And of course, most of your finger stays on.
Can't wait to get Cactus bite.
to try it. We'll move on to non-agenda public comments. I have one request from Mary Willis. Mary?
Thank you. First of all, I really want to thank former Mayor Hobart for his outstanding leadership on the CV Link, as well as the council members who supported him. I sincerely appreciate your working cohesively as a council in our city to make it the best place and the finest place to be. Thank you so much from everybody that I certainly associate with. I'd also like to congratulate the newly appointed mayor, and on behalf of Rancho Mirage Country Club, as well as Richard Kite, for their re-election. Unfortunately, I have not been here to say congratulations, so I wanted to make that part. We certainly look forward to working with you and making our community equal to the standards of Rancho Mirage. May I take this opportunity just a moment to thank Sandra Johnson for her diligence in maintaining code enforcement at Rancho Mirage Country Club. The cutting of the trees is a wonderful improvement, as dead foliage is certainly a concern during our drought. Never mind the view. However, the trees are so lifeless, if you notice, drooping as you're driving down Frank Sinatra or Bob Hope. Unfortunately, the watering is not meeting the commitment of the judge, who had suggested that it occur more frequently. I don't think it's occurring at all. Anyway, we are experiencing more bugs, ants, mosquitoes, and rats ever in the history of Rancho Mirage Country Club, let alone the coyotes and the bobcats. So in addition, we have brought in a tremendous amount of crows. I don't know what they're looking for, but I'm sure they're finding a lot of food because the bugs are crawling all over. Anyway, I really thank you for listening. I know that you certainly have been supportive in anything you could do to help us. It is a circumstance that we're going to all live through, and things are looking brighter because people do not talk about it as frequently as they did. And we do have a court date on June 7th, and hopefully they'll make a difference unless they change it again. But thank you so much, not only the council, but the people of this city. You have been just a real friend, and thank you. Okay?
Thank
Any
you, Mary.
questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Is there anybody that desires to speak? If not, we'll go to City Council Board comments. Start with Charlie.
I'm good, thank you.
Iris?
Nothing.
Dana?
Thank you.
Okay.
Well,
Mike?
we'll make that a foursome then. Nothing for me either.
Nothing? Okay, well, that was quick. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of May 19th.
I'll make a motion.
Please vote. Motion is approved, 5-0. We'll go to the consent calendar. Our city manager, Randy Binder, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Good afternoon. You have 3 items on your consent calendar today. Item number 1 is award of contract for energy reduction programs at the Santa Rosa Villas, one of the city's senior housing projects. MCOR Services, our energy systems consultant, installed swimming pool pumps with variable speed energy motors and replaced thermostats in the clubhouse with occupancy sensors. The cost was $7,700. The annual savings in electricity per year will be $2,800, and the city will also receive a rebate check from Southern California Edison for $4,000. Thank you, Britt Wilson, for spearheading that project. Item number 2 is a request for approval of an administrative services agreement with the County of Riverside for Community Service Area 152, that's CSA 152, and the NPDES program, which stands for the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. This brings in about $173,000 per year that allows the city and the county to protect the groundwater from pollution and nitrate and nitrite discharge. That would be a 5-year contract with 2 2-year extensions. Item number 3 on your consent calendar are demands. And Mr. Mayor, we are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Are there any questions?
I have a question on the
Yes.
first item.
Yes, Richard.
Randy, regarding the pools, I know in the past we've looked to see if they're used a lot during the winter or the summer. Are we finding that there's more use on the pools than there used to be?
I don't know.
Because in the past, they just have the one pool there, don't they? Right next to the clubhouse.
For Santa Rosa Villas? Yes.
Yeah.
There's 33 units there, and the pool is centrally located next to the clubhouse. I wouldn't want to put Sean on the spot, but maybe Sean can answer the question. He has our
No,
housing
that's okay. From what I understand, the pools at each 4 of the properties are fairly well used, and now probably more than before, because they hold classes within those pools for therapeutic reasons as well. And I believe that they do rotate, and they have a class at Santa Rosa Villas.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Britt, did you have anything to add to that?
Are there any other council questions? If not, I'll
I
ask
move
for a
approval of the consent calendar.
Pardon me?
He moved.
Second.
Okay. Please vote. Motion is approved, 5-0. The next item is a report and informational item on the CV Link update. Dana, if you would, please.
Surely, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've been talking for a year now about CV Link, and one of the major objections that Rancho Mirage City Council, the city's had, not to mention 80% of the voters of the city of Rancho Mirage, has been the concept of them using Measure A funds to pay for CV Link and similar projects. Well, we have just finally learned that it's going to be on the agenda of the CVAG agenda of the Executive Committee on June 27th. That's the end of this month. And they have a 3-page report. It's a staff report. I'll just turn it around so you can see what a staff report kind of looks like. These 3 pages, when passed by the Executive Committee, and I don't say if passed, there hasn't been a single request coming from the Executive Director, Tom Kirk, to the Executive Committee in the form of a formal staff report. There hasn't been a single time that I've learned of, and I've read a good number of years of minutes, where the Executive Committee hasn't approved what has been requested. So I have no doubt that a vote to approve this will pass on the 27th of June. Under this bill, if it passes, it will mean that CV Link and about another $100 million worth of bicycle projects and related projects that CV Link will generate over coming years, all of that will be put on what has been referred to as the TIPS list, TPPS. The TIPS list has been the mechanism by which Coachella Valley has dispersed the Measure A funds that are raised every year by the 1/2 cent increase in our sales tax. When this passes, for the first time, those TIPS monies will be used for something other than the repair of roads, bridges, intersections. When Measure A was passed in 2002 by the voters of Riverside County, they created 3 districts. 1, Western Riverside County, 2, Coachella Valley, 3, the Blythe area. When they passed that in 2002, they passed a measure that said Measure A funds will be used only on regional highways, roadways, and for repair type work, remedial work. Up till now, Measure A has only been used for remedial work on our roads and highways and bridges and so forth. When this passes this week, or 3 weeks, it will add, as I said, CV Link. And they have it estimated that the cost of CV Link, of course, this is a figure that hasn't changed for well over a year, and I'm sure this figure is way out of date, but it's $99,400,000 that CV Link will be able to qualify for Measure A funds. Measure A, when this measure passes by the Executive Committee, the Executive Committee's position will be, now, there are two categories of what I'm not sure how to categorize them myself. Two methods by which people can travel. One, roads and highways. Two, by bike paths. That both of them will be have equal footing in the disbursement of Measure A funds. We get about $19 million right now per year in Measure A funds. Not enough to do hardly anything, considering that our road repairs for last year, and I'm sure it's more this year, for all of the roadways that are designated, about 250 roadways, the cost of repair was estimated at over $3 billion. So we've got $3 billion worth of roadways that need repair. We get $19 million a year right now, depending on sales tax. Actually, the amount of money that we've had available for roadways has diminished because our gasoline tax has diminished. It's another source, nowhere near as significant a source as Measure A. But at any rate, they're putting CV Link on that, along with another 100 million or so. I'm kind of guesstimating, looking at the numbers, but 4 pages of bike paths that they're putting on there, that they're planning on building over time. And it's not only an outrageous abuse of what the voters approved in 2002. There was nothing in there about bike paths and scenic routes for electric vehicles. None of that was in there. But that's going to be in there in just about 3 weeks. Whether or not it's legal is a big question. We think that there's an awfully good chance that it's not legal. But that won't be able to be determined in the absence of litigation. That would require a lawsuit by a city or by an individual taxpayer whose money, whose sales tax goes into this fund for use. So I might add with one point. This 3-page report that allows Measure A funds to be used does not in one place mention that Measure A funds will be used. They just use the language of the art, saying, well, when I say TIPS fund, here's the motion. They recommend approve the Transportation Project Prioritization Study, TIPS, and the Regional Arterial Cost Estimate, RACE, and Regional Active Transportation Plan, ATP. Not once in there does it say that those methods of those bicycle paths, essentially, that are identified in the ATP, which is Active Transportation Plan, they don't say one word in here that tells you that Measure A funds can be used now for everything, not just for the roadways that we have before. It's deception of the highest magnitude from the public. It's them not letting the public know that, hey, we're going to use your Measure A funds for these projects, and we think you should know about it. They're saying, hey, we're going to use the Measure A funds for these projects, but if we can keep it a secret from you, we're going to. Another example of irresponsible government, in my view, and you'll probably read about it. You probably won't read much about it until after it's passed. I'm hoping that the newspaper puts a story in about the Measure A diminution based on this. But I sent them an email, the newspaper, 4 or 5 days ago, alerting them to this. Haven't seen anything yet, but still there's a lot of time. So I'm hoping that the newspaper at least lets the public know that their Measure A funds that they voted for transportation repairs are going to be eroded because of some awfully raw politics. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dana. Normally, we wouldn't ask the public for any comments, but because of the nature of the matter, the controversy involved, I will ask if anybody cares to make any comment. They're welcome to do it at this time. Seeing none, we'll go to the next item, and it'll be the Coachella Valley Water District replenishment assessment, and that will be handled by our city manager, Randy Binder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The staff report was written by our Associate Planner, Josh Altop, and Senior Management Analyst, Joseph Carpenter, and it's a receive and file report for the City Council's information. I believe it was a week ago Tuesday, the Coachella Valley Water District Board on a 3-2 vote voted to increase the replenishment assessment charge, RAC, the RAC charge, that is paid by large water users, users that have wells that extract more than 25 acre-feet per year, which is primarily I think 9 or 10 golf courses in the city of Rancho Mirage and several estates, including Sunnylands. And that was approved on a 3-2 vote that will increase their charges per acre foot over the next 5 years, potentially 10 to 15% per year. So right now they pay $112 per acre foot. They could pay up to $128 per acre foot by 2017 and up to $225 per acre foot by 2021. And the purpose of that money is to install infrastructure improvements no, actually that money goes to purchasing Colorado River water to replenish the groundwater, to put in the settling ponds north of Palm Springs to recharge the groundwater. The other part of it that's not being charged to this that the board did not approve would have been additional monies to install infrastructure to extend the gray water improvements to the golf courses in Rancho Mirage. There's a water treatment plant on Hovely Lane in Palm Desert, and if they improve the capacity, increase the capacity of the water treatment plant, that gray water can then be used for irrigation purposes on the golf courses in Rancho Mirage and further to the west. I was hoping someone from the Water District would be here to further talk about that, and Patrick O'Dowd, who's our representative on the CVWD board, who was one of the minority votes on the increase in the fee, is out of town, but may make it to an upcoming council meeting. So just generally, what you have in your staff report, Mr. Mayor, in your packet, Mr. Mayor, is a couple of page report that Josh and Joseph put together. And I just summarized what the impacts will be to the larger water users in Rancho Mirage. And we're here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Does council have any questions? Public have any questions? It's a receive and file matter, so it doesn't require a vote of any kind. The next item will be the consideration of resolution number 2016 regarding an annexation to the Community Facilities District, and Britt Wilson, Management Analyst, will handle that. Britt?
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council. The item before you today is this is the second and last step in the City Council's consideration of the annexation of the Rancho Las Palmas Shopping Center into the Community Facilities District Number 1. The first step was accomplished at the May 19th meeting, at which time the council adopted a resolution declaring its intent to annex that property into the district, to levy a special tax within that district or within that territory to pay for additional police and fire services, and set the public hearing for today's meeting. So at today's meeting, the City Council will conduct a public hearing, and you will get the results of the election. And in the city clerk's absence, I was designated by her to release it. We have no protest. The developer voted, everything was voted in favor of joining the district. So at the conclusion of this public hearing, the City Council can consider adopting the attached resolution, which calls the election to submit the qualified electors the question of levying the special tax, declaring the results of that special tax election, determining the validity of prior proceedings, approving the annexation of the territory, and directing recording of the amendment to the notice of the special tax lien. And all that was accomplished through the expedited processing of the CFD annexations by the owner's petition that they filed with the city. With that, it's back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Brett. Council have any questions? See, are there any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion regarding the resolution.
I'll make the motion. Annexation number 170 to Community Facilities District number 1 in connection with approval of conditional use permit number 14006 CCFPCG Las Palmas LLC Rancho Las Palmas Shopping Center.
I'll second.
Please vote. Motion is approved 5-0. Next item will be the Consolidated Landscape and Lighting Maintenance District, and that will be handled by Bill Enos, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me get situated here a little bit. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this item is the public hearing for the Consolidated Landscaping and Lighting Maintenance District 87-01, approving the final engineer's report and levy of assessments for fiscal year 2016-2017. This district was originally formed in 1987, of course, was formed to fund the maintenance of our landscaping area in our city, the islands, the median islands in the city, as well as certain parkways in the city and the special maintenance zones. Again, all the parcels are assessed for the medians, citywide medians. Only special zones that receive special benefits are included for the parkways. Annually, the amounts of each assessment are reviewed to determine whether they're sufficient to cover the estimated cost of maintaining the improvements paid for by the district, which again include the medians and certain parkways. The deadline for submitting these assessments is August 10th, 2016. These assessments are collected by the county on the benefit of the city, so we have to meet a certain deadline to get them on the tax roll. To determine whether any of the assessments need to be revised, the district commissions a preparation of an engineer's annual levy report, which has been prepared by Wildan Consultants. We have a representative from, or two representatives from Wildan in the audience with us today if there are any questions on the engineer's report. The report does include a description of the improvements, the cost of the improvements, the assessment. There's an assessment diagram depicting the areas, as well as method of apportionment, and then it all boils down to an assessment roll listing the assessment for each parcel included. The report must be presented to the City Council for its review and consideration before making a decision on revising the district's assessments. The preliminary report was presented to you at your May 5th meeting, and there were no comments on that at that time. It was approved. Citywide median district, getting specifically in the district what those assessments are, that The maximum allowable citywide assessment remains the same for the 18th straight year. We've not changed that for 18 years. There continues to be sufficient funds in the citywide reserve fund for 2016-2017 to cover those expenses. Although the assessment, the expenses are approximately $500,000 for that district, we do dip into the reserve fund approximately $15,000 each year. Staff makes every effort to not do that. Unfortunately, as expenses have grown, the revenue remains the same. Expenses have grown over the years, so we dip in slightly. Again, approximately $15,000 of $500,000 that were used to the assessment. So it's not a huge hit, but one we're conscious of and always trying not to do. Zone A, Tamarisk Estates. Zone A, I'm going to toggle over to, let me switch back to page 2 of your report, 7-2. There's a chart up at the top that lists the assessments. And again, the first row is the landscaping lighting districts, which we just talked about. The far right column lists fiscal year 16-17. It's unchanged, as we just discussed. Zone A is the very next row. And in fiscal year 15-16, it was 229.82. And we're raising that slightly because of increased costs, very slightly. Go to Zone B, which is Mirage Estates. It's, again, a very, very slight increase from $420.42 up to $421.00, so very slightly. Same is true of Zone C, which is Mirage Cove, Highway 111, the parkway there. The assessment goes up very slightly. Interesting thing is Zone D, Zone D, which was track map 19294 and 19295, there is an increase there. Now these are yearly assessments, so over the year that's not a huge number, but percentage-wise it does appear to be a lot. It's still below the maximum assessment for that zone, which is, maximum assessment for Zone D would be $491.02, and we're at 407.74, so we're still considerably below the maximum, but it did increase from last year. Because of increased costs, we're also, for that district, recommending an increase of $35 per parcel, which allows for a $1,500 contribution to the reserve fund. We believe it's healthy for these districts to build up a fund for these hits that come along for capital improvements, and should there be a tree die or things need replaced, major expenses. So we're trying to build those funds up. That's our recommendation for Zone D. Zone F, interestingly, has a considerable reduction. That zone was just established last year, was the first full year of Zone F, which is the retention basin over at Verlaine Estates. We estimated the costs there. It turns out we got a screaming deal on the landscape maintenance over there. It was about half what we thought. So hence the reduction. We're also making a contribution. Our policy is kind of to make a contribution to the reserve fund for all of these districts of 10% of the annual revenue. So 10% of the revenue goes into reserve is our goal, again, to build these up. And so, again, we're doing that. We're continuing to do that for Zone F, but the reduction comes, 16-17 assessments recommended at 393.04, which, again, those folks will be very happy. The two resolutions being considered, items 1 and 2, would approve the final engineer's annual levy report and assessments for the citywide landscape and lighting maintenance district and 5 special benefit zones, and will require a public hearing to be conducted prior to approval. Appropriate notice has been given for this hearing as required by law, noticing today's meeting for the public hearing to occur. Staff recommends that the City Council open the public hearing, invite testimony, and consider any written protests regarding Landscaping Lighting District 87-01. After the public hearing is concluded, it's recommended that City Council take the actions as set forth in the recommendation. That concludes my report, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bill. Are there any questions? Yes. Sure.
Bill, you mentioned that we have reserve funds on each one of these zones. Do we max out at a certain level as far as the reserves, or do we just continue to collect it as long as they're in operation?
The reserve funds are listed over, if you'll go to page 7-30 of your report. 7-30, page 30. It's down, it's a spreadsheet with a lot of numbers. I apologize for that. There's a lot of numbers in this. If you go down to the bottom of the spreadsheet, it says reserve information. Over in the left-hand budget item, it's a bulleted, it says reserve information. Under that, beginning operating reserve balance July 1, 2016. Go across that row, it lists the reserves for each fund. Zone A, for example, is negative $1,121. That zone is a negative number now, so that one is not healthy. That is we're trying to remedy that. You can see under that we're contributing $960 to that. I'm sorry, contributing $161 to it, which reduces it to $960 negative. If you go over to Zone B, the current status is a negative $2,235 of the reserve fund. We're contributing $258, a recommendation to contribute $258, which reduces the negative. Now, the other funds are all positive. You can see Zone C is a positive $19,724.
So does Wilton actually establish the amount of the reserve that you should try and maintain in the account? Because that account's almost up to $20,000.
No, Will, that's a staff decision. Staff makes that recommendation. The budgets are, the actual balances are from, provided by our finance department, what's actually in the account. In calculating the amount of the reserve that would be recommended, we look at the ongoing assessments. For example, in this one, the levy breakdown, if you go up to the total direct and administration costs of Zone C, that amount is $55,712. That's right about in the middle of the spreadsheet. That's the total, so it's about $6,000 a year is what's spent on that. So it's up to $20,000 now, which is a significant amount. So we only really contributed $500 to it this year.
So why would you contribute anything to it?
Well, we could not contribute.
If I could add to the discussion. So we do want some cushion in these funds for the one-time large expenses that do occur over time. So generally, the assessments will cover the maintenance costs, but occasionally there are trees that die. There are big one-time capital issues that we have to deal with. It could be a water issue, things like that. So we do like to keep some reserve. And for this example, $20,000 doesn't go very far, but it's at least something to help cushion some of those unforeseen one-time issues that we run into. So we do monitor it. We definitely don't want too much in reserve, and we really just try to get what we think is a reasonable amount, and it's something that we look at every year during the budget process.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Are there any other council comments? I'll open up the public portion, and are there any comments or questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion, and I will ask for a vote. Actually, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2016, next in order, approving the final engineer's annual levy report for the Consolidated Landscaping and Lighting Maintenance Assessment District number 87-01 for the full year 2016-17, as well as adopt resolution number 2016, next in order, ordering the levy and collection of annual assessments for the Consolidated Landscaping and Lighting Maintenance Assessment District number 87-01 for the full year 2016-17, and direct the city clerk to file with the appropriate agencies certified copy of any or all of the above resolutions as may be required, together with accompanying exhibits, attachments, and reports.
Second.
I've heard a second. Please vote. Motion is approved 5-0. The next item will be park maintenance special district special tax levy, and that will be Bill Enos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is, these are annual reviews we do of these assessments. This one is the Park Maintenance District Special Tax. This one's a little bit different from the previous in that it's a legally not required for a public hearing. However, we would recommend it, as we normally do, open it up for comment after we review the report. That's why it was not noticed previously, too, is because it's not legally required to be noticed. This district was approved by the Rancho Mirage voters in 1998 to maintain our parks, and it's to cover the special tax was set in 1998 at $18.96 per residential dwelling unit. The funds are used for the maintenance of Whitewater, was then called Whitewater, Wolfson, Cancer Survivors, and the Magnesia Falls neighborhood parks. The special tax was approved to allow for annual increases to keep pace with inflation, with the increase being limited by the amount of change in the prior year of the Consumer Price Index. The initial $18.96 special tax has essentially remained unchanged for 8 years, but as costs increase and things went along, it was required to have increases. On June 30th, 2016, the Parkland Fund, which is the total fund for this purpose, is estimated to have an undesignated fund balance of approximately $1.8 million for the sole purpose of park maintenance and operation. This is a balance that was created some years ago. There are funds in there set aside for the continued maintenance of the Blixseth Mountain Park and the Block Park, the Cancer Survivor Park. And so those are also in that, not in the $1.8 million, but in the Parkland Fund. As we know, with the recent improvements we made to the Rancho Mirage Community Park, the costs for our park district have went up substantially, and we're dealing with that. And staff recommends that we increase that this park maintenance tax within the bounds that were set by the voters in 1998. Those greater costs will put a burden on the fund. As discussed, the special tax is approved by the voters to allow an annual increase based on the change in the prior year's CPI. The annual CPI for the Los Angeles Riverside County area has increased very slightly. 0.91% is the increase we're looking at now, which comes to a maximum tax rate for the Parkland Fund at $29.22 per parcel. Now again, that's a citywide tax, so it's $29.22 per parcel. Staff's recommending that special tax be increased from the current $28.94 per dwelling unit to the $29.20 for the fiscal year 2016-2017. Then on the last sheet, on sheet 3 of the report, page 3 has a chart that shows what that rate has been the last 5 years. And it's been very slight increases over the years, again limited by the increase in CPI. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution as recommended, which will levy the park maintenance tax at the rate of $29.20 per dwelling unit and direct the City Clerk to file the appropriate paperwork. That concludes my report. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bill. Are there any council questions? Seeing none, I'll open up to public comments. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion. I move that the council adopt resolution number 2016, next in order, ordering the levy and collection of the park maintenance special tax pursuant to ordinance number 685 for fiscal year 2016/2017, and direct the city clerk to file with the appropriate agencies certified copies of the above resolution as may be required, together with accompanying exhibits, attachments, and reports.
Second.
Please vote. And the motion is approved 5-0. The next item is the execution of certificates of compliance for fiscal year 2016, 2017. Bill, I'm glad you haven't moved. And Bill Enos will cover this as well.
I'm on a roll today. All right. Each year, Riverside County requires a submission of certificate of compliance for Prop 218 for each of the fixed charge districts for which the county administers collection of taxes, assessments, fees, and charges on behalf of the city. City has 25 fixed charge districts, including bond and improvement assessment districts, which are covered under the county requirement. The list below references the districts that require the submission of the certificate of compliance. And you see listed on your staff report are various assessment districts, some of which have been refinanced over the years. They're listed there, as well as the District 87-01 we just talked about, the landscape and lighting district, and then CSA 152 is also there, and at the very bottom of the park maintenance tax, which we just covered also. So these would, again, certify that we're doing these per the requirements of Prop 218, and execution may be completed by the city manager or his designee upon authorization by the city council, which would be in the form of a letter listing the districts and that we complied with the requirements. That concludes my report. Here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bill. Does council have any questions? Seeing none, I'll ask for public comment. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion and ask for a motion, please.
I'll make the motion that staff recommends that the city council authorize the city manager of the designee to execute the necessary certificates of compliance and or other documents as may be required for each fixed charge district to be submitted for levy and collection of the fiscal year 2016-17 tax roll.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please vote. Motion is approved 5-0. The next item is the appointment of board members, commissioners to the City Board and Commissioners for the 2016-2017 period. Our city manager, Randy Binder, will handle that. Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of comments before I get started on this. The last couple of items are the special assessments and landscape and lighting district, the park districts that Bill Enos talked about in detail, but we did have the budget workshop this morning, and I just wanted to reiterate the importance of those districts. It's not a lot of money, I think, individually for the landowners and the residents of the city, but that money goes a long way towards maintaining the high quality of life that the city prides itself on delivering to the residents. So that collectively, those assessments do not amount to a lot, but it does cover primarily most of the services that we provide.
Good. Thank
related to those items.
Great.
So, Mr. Mayor, this item here is your annual appointments to the city commissions. And I have a list of nominations that I've received from you. Actually, the city clerk received from you and forwarded to me. I have a list of nominations for each of our boards and commissions. And unless the council has any questions of me, I can go through the list by board and then ask for a motion to approve that slate.
Good approach.
I think that's acceptable. Is that?
Yes, that's a good idea.
Okay, let's do it. Architectural Review Board, the nominations are Dennis Freeman, Kevin Groschow, David Prest, Tim Holt, William Johnson, Bill Johnson, Ray Lopez, Charles Martin, and Paul Sturwold. Is there a motion to approve that slate?
So moved.
Second? Please vote. Motion is approved 5-0.
Okay, Community Cultural Commission. The nominated slate is Suzanne Matthews, Joyce Virtue, Sally Trademan, Julie Childers, Frank Farino, and two non-voting council members, Richard Kite and Iris Smotrich.
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote. And it is approved 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next one is our Community Emergency Preparedness Commission, which will be changing from 15 members to 10 members. The 10 nominees are Christian Lee Braun, Larry Fredericks, James McFarland, Marcia Myers Stein, Arthur Shore, Robert Schwartz, David Richardson, David John Bryan, Mary Lou Suter, and technical advisors Dr. Dennis Maletti and Dr. David Tang.
Move approval.
Second. Please vote. Motion is approved 5-0.
Mr. Mayor, Historic Preservation Commission, the nominated slate is Carol Leibowitz, Mark Benston, Daniel Swartz, Robert Berg Jr., and Ray Keller.
Second.
Please vote. Motion is approved 5-0.
Housing Commission nominees are Eric Wright, Columba Quintero, Alvin Fink, Paul Seibel, Darrell Mulvihill, Mary Bundy, and Velma Coombs.
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote. Motion is approved 5-0.
Library Advisory Commission nominated slates Stephen Lax, Deanne Nichols, Sherry Stewart, Kirk Pickerel, and Dr. Carl Brown.
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote.
Did you get that, Christie?
Motion is approved 5-0.
Mr. Mayor, Library Foundation Board appointed slate, a nominated slate, Lucy Tagmeyer, Linda Bray, Peter Samuels, Patrice Merritt, Diane Sagan, Nancy Cunningham, Lynn Walker, Charles Rich, and currently the mayor serves, and that's Mr. Ted Weil.
Second.
There's one,
Go ahead, who is it?
yeah. There is one omission on the Library Foundation Board, and that is Claudette Pays, who is my nominee.
Okay, so with that amendment,
Excuse me, which one was that again?
Library Foundation Board, Claudette Pays.
For the mayor?
Yes.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
She would be my appointee.
Okay.
So with that amendment, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Move approval.
Second?
Second.
Please vote.
No, someone else needs a second.
And the next?
For the record, I seconded that last motion.
City Clerk, you got that? Okay.
And the motion is approved 5-0. Randy?
Mobile Home Fair Practices Commission, the nomination slate, Thomas Weil, Sam Spivak, Jason Augustini, David Gray, Jerry Berquist, and Kathy Buckmaster.
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote. Motion is approved 5-0.
Community Parks and Recreation Commission, which will also be taking responsibility for the trails, include Paul Hagel, Dennis Constant, Barry Lynn Freeby, Diane Rubin, and Fred Strook.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please vote. Motion is approved 5-0.
Planning Commission slate, Michael Adams, Ann Winchester, Bill Maxwell, Larry Nichols, and Bill Berdovsky.
Move
Motion to
approval.
approve.
Second.
Please vote.
Did the vote come up?
Waiting for one vote.
Who is it?
Oh, that's my mistake. I meant to vote yes.
Okay.
So please register me as a yes. I must have accidentally pushed the wrong button.
All right, the motion is approved 5-0.
Speaker Series Commission, Charles Barrett, Lynn Milano, Ron Shero, Nick Procaccini, Risa Lumley, and council member non-voting members would be Dana Hobart and Iris Smotrich.
Move for approval.
Second.
Please vote.
Why so much drama?
Councilmember Townsend, would you put your vote in, please?
I'm sorry.
Come on,
Following
Charlie.
Dana.
Sleep at the switch,
I was
Charlie.
following Dana.
It's hard to remember, Charlie. The motion is approved 5-0.
Trying to make this as easy as possible for you. Traffic Safety Commission. Nomination slate includes Brenda Weinstock, Clayton Mays, Steve Shuey, Don Smith, Robert Buskus, James Miller, or the sheriff's appointee, and Cal Custer.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please vote. And the motion is approved 5-0.
So, Mr. Mayor, those are your appointments for the year. Thank you very much.
And on behalf, I'm sure, of the entire City Council, I wish to congratulate all of the commissioners that have been appointed for the coming year. You play a vital role in assisting us accomplishing the things that we want. You represent the city, and we appreciate your dedication and service, and thank you very, very much. The next item will be the approval of a 2-year fire services agreement. Isaiah Hagerman, our Director of Administrative Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The contract before you is a 2-year contract to continue our service through the County of Riverside, which also contracts with CAL FIRE. I'd like to thank the Public Safety Subcommittee, which consists of Mayor Weil and Councilmember Smotrich, who reviewed this contract with us and helped me during the process of this contract review. Our current contract for services expires at the end of this month, and due to a recent law change, we would be forced to go through a LAFCO process if we let this contract expire. The LAFCO process would just add time and expense to the city. During this contract process, the 3 Cove cities, Palm Desert, Indian Wells, and Rancho Mirage, all contract for services through the county and CAL FIRE. And so we approach this contract as kind of one voice, one set of changes from the Cove City's standpoint. During the process, there were several changes made from previous fire contracts. The core of the changes really were giving the county more flexibility when it comes to cost recovery and billing. In previous contracts, it stipulated that they wouldn't go above their Exhibit A levels. Now they're quoting a government code section that requires them to be full cost recovery. So if an action is taken via the state or some other county issue, they are able to immediately recoup those costs from their contracting cities. In addition, they updated some relevant government code sections, noted the full cost recovery, and if the city is to terminate this contract mid-term of the contract, that would actually require a vote of the people. According to County Council, that requirement has always been there, so they considered this just an update to catch up with existing government code. Now, what this contract does is it establishes the service provider. So in our budget study session earlier today, there is still a level of service issue that the city is working through. Really what this contract does is it sets CAL FIRE as our provider, so we still have time to work through the service level issues, which are dictated by the city. There is language in the contract that does not allow the city to go below minimum standards, minimum levels. We're not near that point. So the recommendation is for the City Council to approve the 2-year fire services contract and authorize the mayor to execute the contract on behalf of the city. Thank you to the Public Safety Subcommittee, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions by council? I'll open it up to the public. Are there any public comments regarding the item? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment, and I will ask for a motion.
I move the City Council approve the 2-year fire services contract and authorize the mayor to execute the contract.
Please vote. And the motion is approved 5-0. The next item is the approval of the OPEB Trust Fund lump fund payment of $500,000. Isaiah Hagerman, our Director of Administrative Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the City Council. Each year, via the Budget Subcommittee, which consists of Councilman Hobart and Councilman Kite, we really take a comprehensive review of the city and the financial issues that the city faces. This process has led the city in the past to taking actions such as paying off bonded debt early to save on interest. We fully funded our CalPERS pension plan, which saved roughly about $800,000 a year. So we've utilized this process to kind of identify the financial stability of the city and areas where maybe we can utilize our reserves that earn very little interest because of our conservative investment portfolio, and utilize those reserves to reduce operating expenditures and better financial increase the financial outlook of the city by reducing liabilities. So we're using reserves, but it's for the long-term picture and benefit of the city's financial health. This item is another one of those areas that we've identified. And what this plan is, it's referred to as OPEB. That's other post-employment benefits. So other than pensions. And what this plan does for retired employees that are eligible for the plan, it provides medical, dental, and vision insurance stipends to help supplement the cost of those plans once they're retired. So anytime you provide this benefit, there's obviously a liability that goes along with it. To help fund that liability, the city has established a trust fund, a CERBIT trust fund. It's basically through CalPERS, and just like our pensions have a trust fund, we put money into these trust funds to pay future obligations. As of June 30th, 2015, which was the last actuarial report on this OPEB benefit plan, we had an unfunded liability of $1.3 million, and the plan was approximately 56% funded. The subcommittee reviewed several options for this plan, and the recommendation of a lump sum payment of $500,000 was the recommendation coming from the Budget Subcommittee and from staff as well. Now, the important thing to note about this plan is there are some differences between this plan and the pension plan. The first thing is that contributions are dictated by the city. Unlike with the pension plan, CalPERS sets those rates, and they also charge you the 7.5% lost interest earnings on whatever you're unfunded with the CalPERS pension plan. Those rules don't apply here. So really, the plan funding is dictated by the city. So what we looked at is really first the liability. What have we done to limit the liability of this benefit? And so there were 3 key factors that we discussed at the subcommittee level that we felt like really capped this liability. So from a plan standpoint, this liability is not going to grow, and I think from a long-term standpoint, we've shut this plan off. So really what we're talking about here is with the liability we do have, what this recommendation does is really brings the funding level up to a more sustainable level. So there were several key actions that the City Council has taken in the past to really cap and shut off this OPEB plan. So the most recent one is we cut off the plan to new hires. So there is an end of life for this plan, meaning new employees coming to the city hired after January 1st, 2016 don't qualify for this benefit. In the past, previous actions included the City Council enacting a Tier 2 retirement formula, which was 2% at 60. And what that did is it not only saved a lot of money on the pension side, but also for this plan, it raised the retirement age. So under the Tier 1 plan, employees could retire at 55 and be covered until 65 under this OPEB plan, so 10 years of coverage. By raising the retirement age, you've also saved money in your OPEB plan because now you cut that period in half. So now they're going to retire at age 60 and they're only covered through age 65. So 5 years instead of 10. And then the state of California came in after the city and enacted PEPRA, which defines new members at 2% at 62. So those PEPRA members even have to wait an additional 2 years from our new classic members. So that meant people aren't going into this plan for as long. The other key thing that the city did to cap the liability was require service periods. So essentially, to even qualify for this plan, you have to have at least 10 years of service with the city. So somebody couldn't transfer from another city, work a couple years, and then qualify for our plan for the next 10 to 5 years. They have to work at our city and have 10 years of service just to be eligible for this plan. So we really feel like those three actions capped and shut off this plan, and really what we're dealing with now is a funding level. So had we come up with a $500,000 payment, we ran several scenarios at the subcommittee level, all the way from fully funding to lower amounts, and we really felt like that this was the good spot for us to be in, was right at the $500,000 mark. So the reason why we didn't go all the way up to fully funding is we're seeing a decrease in the participation in this plan. So part of the liability, we're estimating, the actuarial report is estimating participation rates, what's the cost of health care, years into the future. And what we've seen in recent years is actually a decrease in the participation rate, meaning we still do have some employees that are eligible to retire at 55. What we've seen is a trend where employees aren't leaving right at 55. Well, for this OPEB plan, that means now we're not covering them for 10 years. Maybe we're only going to cover them for 8, 7, 5, 6, sometimes even none. So we're seeing a decrease in the participation rate, and we really felt like that would help even further to reduce the liability. So we wanted to give some time for some experience of kind of these recent changes to see how that impacted the liability, because we didn't want to go fully funding because we felt there could be a risk that we would be overfunded in this plan if we did that. With our pension plan, we did not have that concern. In fact, we all during the pension process knew the liability could potentially come back because of the changes that CalPERS was making. That's not the case with this plan. With this plan, it's the opposite. So what we're requesting to do is utilize reserves and make this one-time lump sum payment of $500,000. In addition, we are still going to make the normal payment that we budget for and pay every year for this plan. And really between those two actions, we're estimating that we're going to be about 80% funded. And what we're going to do is bring this back to the budget subcommittee every year, and we're going to review our funded status, what are we seeing with the data, and then in the future we can make decisions at that time with more information. So at this point, the request is to authorize a $500,000 payment to the city's OPEB trust fund and approve the related fiscal year 15-16 budget adjustment. And on page 12-2 of the staff report, under the fiscal impact, we show how this $500,000 payment is going to be paid. The general fund portion is obviously the largest. This is a percentage of payroll. So these are the funds that pay for our employees. So they're picking up that percentage of this plan. For the general fund portion, this is coming from reserves, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And thank you to the Budget Subcommittee for all the work during this process. I think that this is another step forward in the financial stability of this city.
Are there any questions
If you have any
Council-
questions, then you haven't been listening, right?
The-
Thorough.
The subcommittee did a great job on this one, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'd merely like to say that this is the kind of issue that is very easy for cities to kick the can down the road. To say, well, we don't have to worry about it now. Let's think about it, or let's do it next year, or let's not do anything. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you have a significant liability that you cannot afford to bring down. How fortunate we are in a city that we have the financial capability and the farsightedness, and I too want to compliment Council members Kite and Hobart for taking this step to reduce this liability. And I think it further exemplifies the far thinking of our council, that we're doing everything possible to make certain that we maintain a very solid financial base. So I too want to compliment you all for doing that. Are there any, I'll open up the public comments. Is there any comments from the public? Seeing none, I will close the public portion and I will ask for a motion, please.
Well, I would move to authorize the city manager to execute a lump sum payment of $500,000 to the city's OPEB trust fund and approve the related fiscal year 2015-16 budget adjustment.
Second.
Please vote. And the motion is approved 5-0. I will now ask our city attorney, Steve Quintanilla, to advise us regarding the closed session.
Mr. Mayor, at this point, the City Council is going to recess into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4 regarding 4 potential initiation of litigation items. The council will also meet in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9B regarding 8 significant exposure to litigation items. The Brown Act requires that we state the facts and circumstances that justify going into closed session on significant exposure items, and the facts and circumstances surrounding these 8 potential cases have to do with 8 subdivision maps that have expired or are about ready to expire. The last item is the council is going to meet pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1 regarding the existing case of Veronica Juarez versus City of Rancho Mirage.
Thank you, and we will now go into, we will adjourn to, we will recess into closed session. Thank you.